We got a pretty intense Setons here. Let's see how long it runs well. Hopefully it doesn't lag too much in the later game, but some great players. On one side we got Slow playing Rock. Don't see him too many times in Setons, as well as Beast. So two great 1v1 players here, UEF and Cybern, Rock in mid. Their team they got Boomer playing as Seraphim, and Ubergeek playing in the back. So not really known as an SF player, but we'll see what happens in this one. They're facing a very good team. We got a KF Lion, or a Killer 652, the second best killer. Very good naval players playing Cybern. It's going to be Cybern on Cybern. We got Berg in the back as Aeon, one of the best SF players. It's always nice when he's playing SF. We got Sith as Aeon on Rock, so Aeon's usually not used on Rock, but this is going to be Aeon on Seraphim. Sith versus Kaboomer. And in the middle we got Mr. White playing a Seraphim against Beast. One of the best mid players, definitely Mr. White. It depends. For some people he is very good, and some people he isn't. But he's going to be pretty good with everybody. So let's see. It appears that we have very early Navy from Zlo. This is coming up. This is the second factory, second naval. It looks like two factories. This is going to be something like the Berg naval rush, where you get one factory to make NGs, and the second factory you upgrade. If you do that, you need a lot of T1 air. It'll be interesting to see. He also has third air, so it might be pretty difficult to build that, given how quickly he built those factories. So he did get all those rocks. Might be a challenge from Lion, but it doesn't look like he's going air, maybe fourth air, so Zlo probably doesn't need to hurry up too much. It's sad, we used to see a lot more fights for the island, but recently people got really good at taking it. Now you see here Sith. She goes in following up with a bomber in case there was a challenge. Drops off a single NG, still has 5 units. So very careful against Kaboomer. And we see some nice raiding here from Mr. White. He gets a Celine and a tank through. And in the middle we see Mr. White getting quite a bit of mass. Already coming up a minute 5, both players got a lot. And we see these two raiding tanks. They forgot to kill off a mass extractor. Already 2 kills, killed off an NG, and now this tank is going to die. So we see a lot of arty coming in from Mr. White. If you look at reclamation coming up on minute 5, almost 9,000 for Mr. White. Beast is at 4,000, so it's a pretty big advantage for the bottom T. We saw something like a drop from Zlo that died very quickly, and we do see very early frigate here from Zlo. That was definitely a naval rush, getting quite a few kills on those NGs. Killer knows to do the right thing. He just builds a factory somewhere in a non-usual place. That was a great bomb from Zlo, so very aggressive from Zlo. He also has a submarine in the area in case Mr. White would have went hiding in the wrong ocean. Mr. White went hiding in the top ocean with no sub. More T1 bombers coming in from Zlo. Doesn't seem like he's trying to take over air control here. Quite a few interceptors for Lion, but he is sending quite a few bombers, and now we see minute 7, cruiser already on its way for Zlo. We see multiple T1 naval factories, as well as some torpedo launchers from Lion. It's going to be a frigate, it seems like. And a nice push back against Mr. White. Very even fight here in the middle, except that Mr. White got about twice as much mass. We see a naval factory make frigates for Boomer. Sith, still no naval factory. Gets a torpedo launcher in, so pretty late naval, and gonna get her naval in the left side. And the cruiser is really getting close now. It's gonna get a few air kills, a lot of bombers trailing this cruiser. And something like an attack on Zlo's island. Not too much defense, but an anti-air turret looks like it's doing its job. So some more bombers coming in from Zlo. Should have been bombing those NGs, but that's alright. There's more kills for this cruiser. Now this cruiser is retreating multiple submarines that it cannot fight. There is one submarine with the cruiser, but 2v1 will be a win. See a second cruiser coming in from Zlo now. He really needs more, and he does have a T2 torpedo. So he's got a submarine, T2 submarines. He's got to save these cruisers. They're going quite low on health now. But this T2 sub is going to take care of it. It's a very intense naval battle here. It looks like Mr. White is making a push back. Beast is in the water now at 40 kills. This is predominantly Arty, it's the Seraphim Arty. Mr. White got gun upgrade for sure. No, just gun upgrade. No NG upgrade. That's going to force Beast into the water. It's a pretty good play for Mr. White. Once again, subs versus cruisers, but this T2 sub should save him. It's a very good unit for Zlo. And more bombing. This is excellent. That was a badass bomber. 7 kills. So Zlo is an extremely good player with you see some massive T2 drops. He's extremely good with T1 bombers. If he played Setons more often, playing Navy, it would be awesome. It looks like we got a drop, an ACU drop from Boomer on Sith. And this is still just a T1 ACU that has a gun upgrade. So most likely he's got that gun that takes a lot of health, but he is just going to blow up. So you really want T3 ACU if you want to drop. And he has given his units over to Tag Ubergeek. Let's see what Ubergeek is doing. He has his T3 Air Factory ready to go. 12 minutes. He's got one of the RAS. He's got 2 of his 3. So it looks like you want 3 T2 PGen build. And we see Beast ACU on a transport coming back to save his own base. It looks like Mr. White's just running him over right now, but he's coming back, and it looks like it's a nice upgraded ACU. It looks like T2. Should be able to put up a nice fight. So it's going to be a lot of losses for Beast here. And it looks like retreat from Zlo. He is sending a lot of his navy to the middle to cut off this choke point, so Mr. White doesn't get too many reinforcements. So 35 kills from Mr. White now. But Beast is getting his ACU back in the battle. About to get 60 kills and a nice shield with some T2 here. With this choke point, it's going to be a problem. It looks like Mr. White has sent his floating arty against these cruisers. It's only viable when Zlo doesn't micro. And Mr. White is now retreating. Beast at 65 kills. Gets a lot of help from these bombers from Zlo, so good teamwork. And it looks like an early ASF fight that Berg is going to take easily. He has about a 2-to-1 numbers advantage here. And some torpedo bombers coming out for Zlo now. It's likely going to be targeted at Zlo. It's torpedo bombers from Berg. And it looks like Killer has fixed his navy now. He's producing T2. He's got a lot more NGs on it. He's got a nice submarine fleet, both T1 and T2. And a lot of NGs here from Zlo in the middle, probably getting a little bit of mass, but Beast is going to have to rebuild his base. He does have to also take control of this naval situation where he's fighting back with a lot of gunships against Sith's frigates. And yeah, now Berg is going to respond. He's going to help Sith out. But both teams have pretty good SF forces, although Berg probably has a larger one at this point. If you look at Ubergeek's economy plus 226, that's pretty massive, and 6600 power plus 155 in terms of mass, and plus 85,000 power. So more power for Berg, but more mass for Ubergeek, significantly more mass for Ubergeek. But it looks like he does have ASF control over his own base. And you can see these are fighting off the frigates. You can see Zlo having to really retreat against all this floating arty. That's a lot of veterancy for these cruisers. You can see 86 kills, 8 kills for those destroyers, 26. Now it looks like this factory is going T3. Needs to get a lot more NGs on that factory Doesn't look like Sith is putting too much on her naval. It's just T2 subs plus frigates. She is going to get T3 air, and she's working on her ass right now. We see some T2 gunships coming into the middle for Beast. Beast does have the gun now. UEF, ACU, T2 engineering, and gun is basically gonna have all this T1 go the other direction, plus nice support from Zlo. Interesting to see Zlo does not have too many T2 mass extractors. He's been all Navy. That's a very dangerous thing to do in Setons. You really want to put a low. See an unsuccessful T2 drop from Sith. Good cover from Ubergeek. See here, Berg has got one factory. He's working on some T3 power generators. He does have some cyber tech, and he's got his second ASF factory. It's minute 17. We see a second ASF factory for Ubergeek as well is coming up, and it looks like most of these mass extractors are. Well, these guys still got a couple T2, but it's not even 20 minutes yet. But it looks like Ubergeek's economy is very good. It's going to be another drop from Sith. That's a successful drop. Beast at 81 kills. Has a nice T1, T2 force in the middle. He's got a lot of dead wrecks to reclaim. Mr. White sitting back at his base. He's got some T3 now. He could be starting a chicken at any moment if he had the eco for it. And now we see Cyber Navy is vulnerable late on against these torpedoes. There's a lot of torpedo planes from Sith, and Ubergeek has a really nice air force here. We do see frigates and T2 subs going up against this T3 Navy from Beast. It's funny, he does not have enough engineers. Well, it's because these frigates do not allow any engineer force. In the air we see some T2 torpedo bombers from Ubergeek as well. That's a pretty nice stream of T2 bombers. Surprising that Killer was not able to recover from that early naval rush against them. I expected better from Killer, but really nice work from Zlo, although he probably does have a economical deficit. No T2 mass extractors here on that island yet. So then Killer, if he does his normal thing, is going to have a much better eco very soon. So you can see this type of rush is very effective if your player can dominate ASF in this area. But that's dangerous to do when playing against Berg and Killer here. But still very nice play from Zlo. In the other ocean, Boomer really died kind of fast. But it now looks like Beast is doing a good job defending. He still hasn't lost Navy. It's a very big asset here, this T3 factory. See T3 power generators being built by Ubergeek. And a pretty even battle here. Surprisingly, given so many, well, these are all destroyers. So Zlo is at a disadvantage given that he does not have air control either. A lot of cruisers here from Zlo, and Killer definitely has the better Navy. No anti-air, however, and if Berg was to lose air, it would be a bad situation. See a lot of T2 torpedo bombers here. Ubergeek doing a lot to help Beast with his new base. And now we see the choke point now in favor of Mr. White. He does have a T3 NG, but just getting his T2 power, some shields for defense. Looks like he's just decking up. So it's minute 21. It could be time to start an experimental for someone. So now if we look at the numbers of ASF, we see it's 108 for Ubergeek, and it is 93 for Berg. So it's about 15 difference if we see an SF fight. A slight numbers difference if we don't account for the ones that have just been built. So about 15 more for Ubergeek, but Berg goes pretty strong into this one. It's not really clear what's happening here. It looks like Berg is trying to get behind Ubergeek, but Ubergeek is not really in one bunch. Actually, not a very good situation for Berg. He did have that 15 plane deficit, and now he just lost his entire air force. So excellent play from Ubergeek. Guess we can say Ubergeek is a great SF player after this battle. And now we see Zlo has just taken out his ACU on a transport. Of course, that was just one battle where he did really well against Berg, but now people are going to look out for him and see if he can do as well. But his economy is excellent. He's got all T3 extractors. He's actually got a nuke too. 22 minutes, all T3 mass extractors and nuke, whole bunch of T3 power, and 3 ASF factories. That should be looked up. And we can see Zlo actually walking with his Navy. He probably does have torpedo upgrade. This is very much suicidal unless you have a complete air control. Now we'll want to just put your ACU in the middle of the ocean, especially against Killer, who does have a superior force. However, we do know that Zlo has the benefit of his back player controlling ASF. So let's see if maybe can make some T2 bombers, some Corsairs. Be excellent for Zlo going up against the Cyber Navy. In the other ocean, we see T2 gunships have basically pushed back this AO Navy all the way back, and we can see Sith has to resort to making flak and shields now to protect her Navy. But we're going to see some T3 subs coming out from Beast very soon. It's going to be very difficult to deal with, especially with no air. So now it's become a very even game, very well played by these three players. Beast not losing the mid completely, taking over, doing a good job on beach. Zlo doing that really nice naval rush, preventing Killer from being as dominant as he usually is. Although it was a gamble that might not pay off in the long run, and extremely well played by Ubergeek, who now does have air control against Berg. We do have to remember we have Sith and Berg here in the back behind Mr. White and Killer. These are extremely good players who are probably going to figure out how to get out of this situation. See Mr. White in the transport. Not clear what he's done. Looks like he's going to go into the pond along with Berg. You can see a combination of Aeon and Cybern using those hives. See a group of T2 gunships from Ubergeek looking for things to kill. So at this point, Zlo really gotta figure out how to get his eco up. Can't afford a quarter of your team's mass extractors to be T1 and T2. If the other side has all T3, they're really gonna beat you many different ways. So maybe it's time to really stop this spam, which is significantly less than what Killer has potentially here, and it looks like he's getting some upgrade. Now we can see Sith is coming back. It's destroyers and T2 subs, frigates, a whole bunch of shields. We got a single T3 sub. Excellent weapon, but probably won't be able to go up against all that Navy. Now we're gonna see Sith's island under attack from T2 gunships, so way too much T1 flak. Those are gonna disappear. Berg's got a new Air Force, both Cybern and Aeon in this one. He also is making T2 flak, so anticipating if Ubergeek was to try to completely dominate air, he'd have to fly over flak, so he probably won't do it. Also note that Sith is also making air, so the back player here, the two back players are both making air, Sith and Berg. See some scouts coming out for Sith. It's very unlikely for a Killer to lose to Zlo here, given that Zlo has no eco. Beast is probably going to be on defensive in the middle. He's also UEF. Maybe you can get a T3 NG from this factory, but this NG actually is very much under attack, and Aeon with his flak and shields are extremely powerful against air, so air is not going to solve this problem for Beast. It's really a problem with no solutions here, unless you want to get an experimental like a fatty. And looks like Zlo is being aggressive. He's got a whole bunch of cruisers. We might see cruiser versus destroyer fight here. See a whole bunch of torpedo bombers from Ubergeek, but these are not going to be very good against that massive shields. And some scouts from Ubergeek looking for things to kill. And we also got to remember Ubergeek does have a nuke, which is nearly complete. Looks like it's just been spotted, and that's going to be a very bad situation. Some potentially great targets here. This is a great one. Otherwise, maybe something like these 3 mask extractors or one of these factories. So most likely either this or this be a great target. If you want to completely kill, perhaps the even better target would be Killer. If you shut down his naval production, Zlo can just win this entire ocean and pound both middle and the beach spot. Sith's probably not too good of a target. The base is pretty spread out and she is in no danger of losing navy. Of course, nuking directly at actually, no, there is an anti-nuke, but it won't be loaded for Mr. White. So this seems to me the most logical place to nuke. Take a Killer out of the game, allows Zlo to take over the ocean. We have a successful drop now from Mr. White onto the island, and that's the danger of not having mobile units on the island. PDs are vulnerable versus RD, and it looks like Zlo is going to lose his island, which was all T1 anyway. This nuke is nearly completed. It'll be curious to see where Ubergeek sends it. And we see here that Beast has lost the navy. Really not enough NGs on those factories. If he had something like 10 of these instead of 2, he'd be in pretty good shape, but those 2 subs not enough. See some T3 Ravagers being made now. They'll buy Beast a little bit of time. So in this game, Ubergeek really kept his team in the game, making it respectable. If he didn't win ASF against Berg, it would have been over already, most likely. We do see that chicken, which is more than halfway done for Mr. White. It's going to be another problem for Beast in the middle. You see he started a fatty, but okay, so now we see this nuke has been launched. Minute 28. See where that goes. And now we'll have this fight, destroyer versus cruiser. Very even numbers, but most likely Killer will have this one. And now the game is beginning to slow down. We're at -2 now. It appears that Ubergeek has made the right choice and he's going to go against Lion. However, Lion at this point has completely won Navy with his destroyers. So really not enough production for Zlo. And you can see how Killer has ran away. He's still going to lose a lot of T3 power and some of his mass extractors. But he still has quite a good amount of build capacity here that he saved. If we look at how many kills in that nuke, so it was only 50 kills. Could have been potentially a lot more. Now we do see Strat bombers coming out for Ubergeek. You can see Beast actually doing a pretty good job at protecting. He is, for whatever reason, making an anti-nuke when his biggest problem is a navy at his doorstep, which is strange to see. But you see those Strat bombers actually used against this navy, and you can see how quickly Killer's gonna rebuild. He's getting an upgrade in his ACU. and that appears to be Zlo has just been defeated. For whatever reason, he has given his units over to Beast and has died in the middle, and that was, well, actually that's clear why, because of this yeah, I don't understand why I didn't catch that right away. We had a pretty big naval force from Killer that killed off Zlo's navy, and he had his ACU in the navy. He tried to run on land, but not fast enough. So now that was a gamble that really wasn't clear why he did that. Should have just stayed on land. And it looks like a total dominance in terms of ASF from Ubergeek. If we look at the numbers, coming up a minute 30. He's got 265. You can see Sith has 35. Berg has 200 Aeon. 23. So this is going to be nearly identical if both teams. Yeah, both teams have about 260. Perhaps slightly more for this left team if you add everything up together. See some Strat bombers that came through but were killed pretty quickly. We might see this ASF battle, and it looks like Ubergeek wants this battle. Well, now he pulls back. He does not want to fly it over that flak. You can see here Berg now respawns. He's got about 230 plus another 30 here from Sith. It's about 260 ASF in this cloud. So nearly identical numbers, but Ubergeek might make a mistake and fly over this flak. You can see Sith is about to get decimated. She was not on the same page with Berg. That's going to be pretty bad. Although somehow it was very undecisive from Ubergeek, and now he has decided to turn back against the Berg. And Sith, for the most part, lives. Still very even numbers here. Looks like Sith is just going to go hunt for Strat bombers. That did put Ubergeek in a funny position where Berg came in from the back, and they are fighting over a whole bunch of flak from Mr. White. That's going to give a massive advantage for Berg. So positioning appears to be the most important thing in these ASF fights. If you can fight over your own base, you're in really good shape. Plus another good thing that's happening right now is Mr. White is getting showered with mass. Each one of these is about 200 mass. You definitely want to get that whenever you can. Now we do see a chicken coming through the middle for Mr. White. And here we have the Beast got his Ravagers going up against the Navy. This is something you almost never see. Usually people, when they see this happening at their doorstep, they just sort of give up. This ASF fight's still going on, and it's quite amazing. Actually, there's more flak now from Berg. That Ubergeek still has this much ASF now. Sith comes back, and it looks like that's going to give enough of an edge for Ubergeek to completely lose his ASF. So I bet you if that fight did not happen over all this flak, could have been a very different result. But good work from Sith and Berg. And this fatty is 3/4 of the way done. Could be a counter to this chicken. But now that ASF belongs to the bottom team, it's probably nearly game over for the top side, because they have lost, it seems like they will lose both navies, with Killer with a much better economy than whatever is left of Mr. White's, of Zlo's base. But somehow Killer is not producing too much. Now the fatty has been completed, the chicken is sort of taking its time. There is a little bit of T3 here. And Beast was able to save a lot of his base. He is probably going to lose a few of those mass extractors up on top. See, the second nuke has not been constructed yet.
So many things that happened. Kaboomer really lost his navy way too easily against Sith, which was expected. Zlo had a really nice naval rush, built up a nice navy, but never switched from that to building an economy. And then when he had the big opportunity with the killer being nuked, he just did not have the capacity to make a navy to capitalize. And then in the Middle Age was for the most part a stalemate. You see this chicken actually not going around the middle. He's going to attack Beast directly. The fatty is going to attack. Yeah. It would have been great to see if instead of Boomer here was somebody like Tag Seton, who could give Sith a really good fight. His game would have been quite different, and we have to remember Sith did build quite a bit of ASF to help Berg out, and they did fight over this flak. So small error for Ubergeek there. But he really saved his beach, and he put his rock in the right position. They just couldn't capitalize on what was given to them. Some anti-nukes on the top side. I don't think I've seen any nukes from the bottom team. We see many T3 power generators from Berg. This is a nice ASF production. We see an anti-nuke that's already loaded with one. So no nukes. No reason to build anti-nuke. Of course, we have a very important anti-nuke here from Mr. White. It covers a lot of Berg's base. See a lot of scouting coming in now ahead of this chicken. Once again, some pretty good teamwork, and we're going to see shields plus a chicken. It's going to take on Beast Space, who has a whole bunch of T1 PD, T3 PD, and a whole bunch of Seraphim shields. So with this amount of even if there was no shields, this chicken probably caused significant damage to that base. So it'll be an interesting battle here. Looks like Beast is running away. He does have the gun, so we might see some overcharges. And the fatty making pretty good progress through the middle. See a second chicken from Mr. White. And it looks like Beast has completely abandoned his base, so he won't even attempt to overcharge. And we might see another ASF fight. Yeah, you can see this chicken hasn't even taken one hit yet because of all those shields. If we look at the numbers now, we got 114, something like 160 for Berg. Ubergeek at 105, so nearly 2 to 1. This should be a pretty big win for Berg. Should just be a slaughter. And that's exactly what we're seeing. Well, surprisingly, Ubergeek knows something about flying ASF. He's doing really well, given these numbers. Appears that Berg has split up his ASF. He's going after these Strad bombers. And this chicken actually went down quite low in health. Lost all the shields, and those Strad bombers nearly completely killed it. And good work from Berg, and this is amazing from Ubergeek. Nearly 2 to 1 numbers, still alive. Now once again he's going to fly over flak, and that's really going to screw things up for him. And there's a whole bunch of Strat bombers from Sith now. They're going to decimate this fatty. And Ubergeek's still doing a good job, and now Beast sends in a few reinforcements. So Ubergeek was able to fight off Berg, even over flak. Sometimes I wish I was good at ASF so I would know what the heck's happening. But that is not the case. And we can see this chicken is doing a good job. See more Strat bombers coming in from Sith. Are going to get cut out by these ASF, and there goes Beast. This chicken is nearly dead. So that's Uber Geek all alone. They can see that he has way too many units, so 1,000 unit limit isn't good enough, and you can see Sith actually bombing directly at his ACU unsuccessfully. So now it is a 4v1. Very well played by this bottom team here. Just a few small mistakes and some bad matchups, such as Sith versus Boomer. And Zlaw, if you really switched to Eco, you could have really saved this game. 45 kill chicken, still alive. And now a nuke from Sith. Some T2 bombers coming in from Killer. Kill off the last cruiser from Zlaw, and then another chicken rolling through the middle. There was a dead fatty here. And because there was a give, anti-nukes are not given, so all the anti-nukes that Beast has made and now belong to Ubergeek are unloaded, so this from base is going to get nuked before this chicken walks over it. So very well played by Ubergeek. He just did not have the supporting cast. If he had on beach, say Dim, I would put my money on the top team, but they did not have Dim. Really, against Sith, there's not many players who can beat her when she plays on Rock. So now we should see Ubergeek die somehow. He's working on a donut, so I guess that's desperation or just going out in style. Nice if he built that donut and just sort of crashed it on himself. Because we are now at minute 36 and the game is lagging. 55 killed chicken. And still some Strat bombers from, these are actually torpedo bombers, T3 torpedo bombers from Sith, looking for something to kill. Absolutely nothing in the water left for the top team. It's a pretty big squadron of Strat bombers from Sith. And multiple chickens from Mr. White. Killer has been surprisingly quiet this entire game. He did get nuked, but in 36 minutes I would expect a little more from him. He does have a lot of T2 bombers. And this donut's nearly complete. Unfortunately, that donut is going to drop really quick if it meets this ASF. See a missile ship now. Where is this missile ship? Here it is. From Sith. It's going to kill a lot of these units. Got a really long range. And chicken going along the side. T3 mass extractor getting bombarded. We might see the death of the donut as soon as it's built. Berg moving his ASF in. Hopefully we see some Strat bombers. Yeah, some Strat bombers from Sith. Should be there to kill Ubergeek. Now you can see how quickly that donut loses health. But Ubergeek still has a nice ASF presence. The numbers do look pretty even. Maybe a little more for Berg. Now that donut is on its way back down. As soon as it was built, it turned into a wreck. That may have given Ubergeek just enough time to make this a fight, but it's going to be very close. With all these Strat bombers coming in, it's probably going to be a loss for Ubergeek. It appears that Berg is winning the fight anyway. There's going to be the death of Ubergeek right here. All those Strat bombers coming in. Still at 3,000 health. And there you go. So, very well played by Ubergeek and everybody else. Hope you guys enjoyed this one.